Welcome in. Belly up, have a seat, and grab a drink as we talk some Wingman Fantasy Football. Welcome into another edition of Wingman Fantasy Football, the League Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Furley, and as always, I'd like to thank all of you, or any of you, who may be watching or listening to today's show. This is episode 120, Week 11 preview, and it is my great pleasure, my honor, to welcome into the bar Mr. Bernie, a.k.a. Team B.
I'm Cuban B. Yes, Cuban B.
How are you doing tonight, Bernie?
Well, like my waiver wire pickups, I'm showing promise, but ultimately disappointing.
Okay, oh man, got an early assessment of this already. Okay, all right. All right, guys, once again, we have a jam-packed episode for you this week, tonight, this morning, whenever you're watching, as we are going to go over the slate of the weekend's prime time games, check in on the player news and practice reports, and there is a ton. We'll check in on the waiver wire activity for the Wingman Fantasy Football League, as well as go over the Week 11's matchups in the Wingman Fantasy Football League, and we'll see who's on top of the newest power rankings of the Wingman Fantasy Football League, and we'll also let you know our starts of the week. We have another pleasurable installment of a fourth and long with Bernie, and we close one chapter of our Wingman Jam as we're going to pick our 2v2 and see who's going to have to pay up next week as we close this chapter. And we'll dive into a mailbag, a full mailbag, as the holiday seasons approach and Santa's getting busy. We'll do that as well. Now, let's get into some news and notes. All right, let's start off with the schedule for this week, as there are no games in Europe this weekend. But there are 4 teams on bye this week, as we will be without our Arizona Cardinals, Carolina Panthers, New York Giants, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So let's set the slate for this week's primetime games. As on Thursday night, we have a battle of the NFC East. Who's going to take this division, as the first place versus second place team are playing, as the Washington Commanders navigate their way to the city of brotherly love to take on those Philadelphia Eagles at 8:15 p.m. The Sunday night game has the Cincinnati Bengals stalking the LA Chargers in a shockingly important matchup at 8:20 p.m. And the last game of the week is the battle for Texas supremacy, with the Houston Texans stampeding their way over to Jerry's house at 8:15 p.m. And Jerry Jones is going to need to do some interior decorating, get a nice set of curtains or blinds to block out the sun from CeeDee Lamb. All right, which of these games are catch your attention? Are you afraid of? Last week you were talking about putting bags over your head. I don't know how you are this week.
I got one thing for you before we get into these games here real fast.
Sure.
Do we bring everybody into the
Oh my
room?
gosh. Yeah, before we get any further along, let's make sure that everybody, a little more juice on that, is in the room. Wingman assemble. That's why I keep you here, to keep me on straight. Thank you, Bernie. All right, which of these games catch your attention the most?
Now that everybody's listening,
yes,
and everybody's here, it's really going to be, I believe, that Sunday night game has got my attention. Cincinnati at the Chargers. This is going to be a show of might on the Chargers side, I believe. I think that they can really put Cincinnati in their place and say, hey, you don't need all those yards to just lose. You could lose with no yards.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, well, this is Cincinnati is getting into desperate time here, as they are. I think they have 4 wins. Luckily, they got a couple in a row earlier to keep them above float. But if they get 1 or 2 more losses, their season is going to be sinking fast.
Oh yeah, and obviously the Thursday night game, but that's already done.
Yep. All right. So speaking of that Thursday night game, we had 8 players in our managers' lineups to start off the week with. They took our jobs, had Saquon Barkley starting off his week for the Thursday night games. Mac Daddy 2s reluctantly and accidentally had Devontae Smith in his lineup. Cubert's Rage started off with Jaden Daniels in the second straight Thursday night game, where mano-a-mano, QB versus QB, as Jaden Daniels was up against Red Sox Nation's Jalen Hurts. And Red Sox Nation also had the Philly defense to pair up with Jalen Hurts on Thursday night. Lion Eyes put scary Terry McLaurin in his lineup. And Team B,
I'm Cuban B. Yes.
Went back to the well with A.J. Brown in his lineup to start off his Week 11. And King George, at the last moment, put Brian Robinson Jr. in. And just like most of his games this year, he's not getting the yards, but he gets the touchdowns. I haven't looked more recently, but he has a decent day to start off her week. What about these players catch your attention? Last I looked, this game is a little underwhelming.
Yeah, very underwhelming. Jake Elliott has made 2 field goals, but he's also, I believe, missed 2 field goals. So that's exciting, I guess. Yeah, there's nothing really big going on here. So nothing that nothing that anybody wants to hear about.
Gotcha.
Yet.
With
Yeah.
Austin Saber being out today, that might have been the best player in this game if he wasn't hurt.
Yeah, you know what? Eckler does look good. He's moving the ball around a little bit, but nothing crazy because somebody else is getting touchdowns.
All right, now for some player news and practice reports. Jawan Jennings, one of this show's favorite players, was added to the injury report later in the week with an ankle injury. Not sure the severity at this point, but we hate seeing these mid to late week injuries pop up during the practice week. It's been about I don't know, I want to say about a 70-30 bad news when these happen. I don't have that's an anecdotal in my head. So just keep an eye on him. George Kittle, who is dealing with a hamstring injury, did get back on the practice field on Thursday in a limited session. So that is definitely good news. Nico Collins, who missed last week in a little bit of a random miss as he was thought to get back on the field last week, is expected to play this week, but he has that Monday night game, so keep that in mind when you're setting your lineups. He should go, but have a backup plan ready just in case. DK Metcalf logged in a full practice this week. It means he is trending to return from that MCL knee sprain. That's great news there. Brian Robinson was able to get back on the field as he was active for the Commanders on Thursday night against the Eagles. Well, we'll stop right here. We got 5 names here, a couple of 49ers, Jennings, Kittle, Nico Collins. Metcalf is back, and so is Brian Robinson.
Yeah, the Kittle is going to be tough if he's out. You know, he's been eating up a lot of target share, and Metcalf will be awesome if he's back because he tends to get a lot of defensive attention, which opens up the offense quite a bit.
All right, moving along here, we got Christian McCaffrey has been limited all week in practice, but it was said that he did not have any setbacks, and I think they're just kind of easing him in on practice times. He should be good to go as the bell cow for the 49ers. T. Higgins finally got back on the practice field, although a limited capacity, but it looks like there's a decent chance he will get back on the field as he's been dealing with a quad injury. Once again, his game is Sunday night, so definitely have a backup plan ready just in case T. Higgins does what T. Higgins does as a last-minute scratch. And Isaiah Likely returned to a full practice after missing last week, and we're going to see if Mark Andrews' good game last week had anything to do with Likely's absence or if Andrews is trending in the right direction as he's been for the last 4 weeks. Aaron Jones has been practicing all week as he deals with injured ribs, but those practices have been limited. Still, this is a great sign for the running back as he looks like he'll be available for week 11. We'll stop right there real quick. McCaffrey seems like he's okay, just limited practices. Higgins get back on the field, Likely returns, and Aaron Jones is also practicing.
Yeah, they're going to need Likely because that game's going to be a little bit of a back and forth, I believe. And then as far as Aaron Jones, he based on their last week's performance, that offense needs all the firepower they can get. If that's a regression for Sam Darnold, which I don't think it is, I think it's a one-off. I think they'll be okay, but having him on the field is key.
Yeah, he's a great because he's a do-it-all back. You know, he's great on the back. He's very similar to Kamara, where you can use him in any type of game script. And he's a great check down guy as well. If things aren't going down, not working down the field, he just fills the gap so well for an offense.
Yeah, he's a threat, and and he's got decent blocking skills.
Yeah. All right, now we got this is our wow, I didn't realize I had 4 in a row. We have we'll just do this as the Kansas City Chief segment here, as Harrison Butker is dealing with a knee injury and is expected to be placed on the IR before this week's games. For all of you who are not aware, I don't know if he's been officially signed yet, but the reports are they're going to sign Spencer Schrader is going to be the expected backup kicker here now. So a lot of times with these kickers, it's not the actual kicker. Although there's some good kickers, of course, but it's the team and the situation and the game scripts you're getting into. So Spencer Schrader is a potential pickup for a kicker. Juju Smith-Schuster, is he still on your team? You can answer this in a moment, but he's returned to a full practice, looking like he may bolster The Kansas City receiving core, Isaiah Pacheco, who has been designated to return from the IR, meaning his 21-day practice window has been opened. He's logged in back-to-back limited practices this week. He is not expected to play this week, but this is a great sign that he is trending towards a return and may be back sooner than later. Keep an eye on that, you Kareem Hunt managers, and Patrick Mahomes, who this is old. I didn't delete that one. So we have those three Kansas City Chiefs: Pacheco, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Harrison Butker.
Yeah, so basically, I think Ben's a brilliant team has Harrison Butker. So Ben, just make sure you've got a backup.
He's actually on Crazy Fish.
Oh, he's on Crazy Fish.
He was drafted by Ben's brilliant team. He got dropped. I picked him up, and then I dropped him, and he's been on Crazy Fish.
Oh, Crazy Fish. You should play Butker. And then the other ones, Pacheco will be good. The problem with all of these assets kind of moving in flux right now is that it's good for the Chiefs because the defense it's preparing doesn't really know what's going on. They got to prepare for everything, but it's bad for fantasy situations when you need to know who to start and who not to start. So just keep your eye on the news. But if all is good with Pacheco, put him in your lineup.
Do you still have Juju on your team, or did you get rid of him?
No, I dropped him. I believe that his age and that injury is probably not a good thing moving forward. So I went ahead, and we'll get into it on the waiver review here. I picked up two other old men.
Okay,
to fill his spot.
You were so gung ho to start him right as he got hurt.
Yeah, I needed some veteran on my roster, some old men to fill that gap there.
All right, moving along here. We have Trevor Lawrence has already been ruled out for week 11. He's not having surgery yet. The team has a bye week in 12, and there are hopes that he can return in week 13. Darnell Mooney was added to the injury report in the middle of the week with an Achilles. That's what it's stated as anyway. He did practice in a full capacity on Wednesday and then had the injury sometime between Wednesday and Thursday and practice on a limited capacity on Thursday. So I'm not overly worried, being that he got practice on both days, but I'm not sure exactly when the injury took place on Thursday. So definitely keep tabs on those practice reports heading in to Friday and Saturday, as this is potentially a big deal if he's not playing. They're also playing against the Denver Broncos, which is a tough matchup, but I think Drake London draws Pat Surtain, and that might be actually good news for Mooney if he can be healthy. Josh Jacobs has been practicing in a limited capacity coming off their bye week. He is dealing with a stated quad injury. I thought he hurt his ankle when he left the last game in week 9, I guess, at the end of the game. So I don't like that it's called something different, but I'm hoping they're just easing him in like the 49ers did last week off the bye, easing their guys in who all played. And Najee Harris, who got banged up in last week's game, has been getting in full sessions this week. I guess he's good to go. On the other hand, his running back mate, who started to take over some of the work, Jaylen Warren, has missed practice this week with a back ailment. All right, what do we have here? Lawrence is out. Mooney is a late week injury. Jacobs is limited. Harris is back on the field, and Warren is actually missing practice.
Yeah, I saw the Warren news. Warren was actually going to be my start of the week, and then I saw that news with the back injury. So I dropped him from that. But hopefully he's okay. I don't know if maybe it's just a spasm. Mooney is the one I'm concerned with. He's in my starting lineup. He might get benched for a little bit better matchup, but not as explosive as a receiver. I'm worried about that because he is a fast, explosive receiver that cuts a lot. So I just don't want him to be hesitant while he's on the field.
I thought you put him he's on your bench right now. Not that it matters right now, but.
Yeah, I put Jameson Williams in right now.
All right. Next group of players here. Michael Pittman has been practicing in full. Was he just waiting? Well, we'll get to that news later. Was he just waiting for a different quarterback? Amari Cooper is optimistic. It's good to have the good feels. He's optimistic that he'll return this week against the major matchup against the Chiefs. Sam Laporta has been sitting out this week as he's dealing with that shoulder injury. Dalton Kincaid has also not been practicing with his, I believe it was knee injury. Devontae Adams sat out on Thursday with what's been designated as a wrist/illness. So his wrist is very sick, guys. Be careful with that. Also, this is crazy. I wish we had a show right after our last one if we didn't have this 2-day break or 1-day break, however you want to look at it. As right after we mentioned that Joe Flacco is the starter for the going forward, and Desmond Ridder is going to start for the Raiders. literally 6 hours after that, the coaches came back and said just the opposite. These guys are jokes. Anthony Richardson has now been named the starter for week 11. We saw him as a long-term potential pickup as just a dart throw, but now he's got a chance to be in the starting lineup for our fantasy managers this week. And Gardner Minshew, I think they saw Ritter in practice on Monday and said, never mind. We can't do this. I mean, we want to take out Minshew, but we can't in good conscience put in Ritter. So both of these guys are getting back into the starting lineup. All right, so we have Pittman, who's back on the field. Cooper's optimistic. Our tight ends, Laporte and Kincaid, are not doing well. Devontae Adams has a sick wrist, and our quarterback flip-flops with these jokes of coaches.
Yeah, I don't even know what to think about Devontae Adams, and I'm not going to think about Devontae Adams. Let's just move it. Let's just move it along here.
You don't have anything on these quarterbacks? Anthony Richardson getting put back in?
I do, but it's a longer take than really. So basically what happens is Joe Flacco gives us the best chance to win. We lose the 2 games in a row. Anthony Richardson was good about it on the sideline. The team kind of likes Anthony, so they're just like, let's just put him back in. I mean, they're not winning, so you might as well do it. The upside is he can run and Flacco can't run. He's got a good matchup, so we can kind of take it from there.
So I have a couple thoughts on this, and they've been developing in my head even as we're talking about this here. All right, So the last game Richardson played was that game where he tapped out, apparently being tired after an 8-yard run or whatever it was.
Right.
So the couple thoughts is that one, that loss, I mean, I'm not saying he did it on purpose. He was tired, and that's how he reacted, which is just not a leadership way to react, but I understand you're not thinking about all that stuff all the time. So I'm going to give him a little bit of slack on the initial call for sitting out. The fact that he actually sat down, that's the bigger problem. I don't have the problem calling for the sit. I have the problem sitting down. So I think the coach, he lost respect with his locker room on doing that. And I think the coach had to like show that he was strong. Like, I'm with the locker room guy. You can't do that, dude. It might've been an unofficial suspension, if you will. You know what I mean? Because they're already not doing well. If he loses the locker room by putting in, I'm not saying he's a prima donna, but like someone who needs a break and he gets the beneficial treatment while the other guys busting their butts don't. That's not a good good thing to get on paper there. And my other thought is potentially they knew how tough the defenses were in was it Buffalo and Minnesota that Flacco went out. That maybe Flacco was the sacrificial lamb for those 2 games. Yeah. To maybe not. Because if Anthony Richardson would have played those games and gotten just as dominated, his confidence might have been shot forever. Right. That one I just thought of now. So I don't know about that, but I'm like, maybe they kind of and if he would have won, they would have kept him in. But if they lost, they could turn to someone who's not shot for a long stretch of time.
Yeah, I would probably lean towards that second one there. Sounds more realistic to me. I heard his center talk after that game where he tapped out, and his center basically said that the whole team believes in him, and they see that he gives it his all when he's out there. He doesn't half-ass it at all. But he talked to him after, and he's like, "Look, man, he's a kid, and he made that decision. Probably not the best decision, but the team didn't take it as he's not in it because they believe in him. So I would lean probably towards that second scenario that you got in your head there.
Okay,
yeah,
sounds good to me.
But it's the same thing for fantasy value. He brings a little bit more fantasy value at this point because he's mobile.
He's going to have at least 2 28-point plus games throughout the rest of the season. You just don't know. The Jets are a decent one to aim for.
Right. But what happened? Who did the Jets just play?
Cardinals, right?
Yeah. And what did Kyler do?
Kyler went off. Not with his legs, though. I mean, he scored rushing touchdowns, but he didn't get rushing yards. But yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, but Kyler lit him up. So the Jets defense is vulnerable, I think.
You think you get rid of a defensive-minded head coach? I'm surprised your defense would fail.
Yeah, right. So I think that whole team is shot.
All right, guys, it is now time to get into our waiver wire this week, as we had 6 waiver bids this week for 5 NFL players, meaning that 1 player received multiple bids. Our first player and highest price acquisition from the waiver wire this week was Audric Estime, who went to Cubert's Rage for $12, outbidding Red Sox Nation, who put a $9 bid in. Only 2 bids for Estime. He was like the clear-cut number 1 running back pickup this week, although there's question marks on what he's going to get going forward. But good price for Kubert's Rage, a little more than he needed, but in that same range there, only 25% more than he needed to put in. So I'll take that as a good buy. Team B went crazy this week. He was keeping his powder dry, and he used it on some players that were questionable. But he put in some bids as he picked up Mike Williams this week for $10, trying to bolster up his receiver room. He also went with Marquez Valdez-Scantling for a $10 bid. Red Sox Nation picked up Christian Watson for $10. I forgot to say that all these guys, there were no other bids, so I hate to break it to you, Bernie. You paid too much.
You paid too much.
For both Mike Williams and Marquez Valdez-Scantling. And Red Sox Nation, Christian Watson. We mentioned him as a pickup, but for $10 with no other bids, my man, you know what you did.
You paid too much.
All right, I forgot about that in real time. Also, you're listening to my streamers' defenses. You're giving me a lot of hope here. Even last week after the Giants didn't work for you, Team B also picked up the New Orleans defense. He's banking on that Jameis Winston mishap, and it's going to come sooner than later as he spent $5 for a defense. Last week, the Philadelphia Eagles went for $5, but there were multiple bids. Unfortunately for Team B, there were no other bids for the New Orleans defense. So I'm sorry, Bernie, but for the New Orleans defense...
You paid too much.
All right, so what made you go from not spending any of your money to spending $25 of your fab this week?
Well, it's basically those are the guys I wanted, and I'm not working the waiver during the bidding process, so I just didn't want to deal with not getting them. So I just wanted to put it in, make sure I got it, and I'm good with it. I called their agents up. I said, "What's the price?" And I said, "You take that price and double it."
Yeah. I was thinking that as you're going. Nice job. One question for you. So these are the guys you got.
Wait.
Yeah.
So I honestly, I needed receivers.
Right.
MVS, he is basically replacing Rashid Shaheed, and despite what people think, Derek Carr can throw the ball downfield. He was making a connection with Shaheed when they were playing together, and so MVS fills that void. And then Mike Williams, I think Mike Williams is in a good place now. He's not on the Jets, and he's like, oh, okay, let's make this happen. And Russ is cooking, man. You know, Russ needs that big body downfield, so go get it, man. Pickens, listen, Pickens is going to get into trouble. I'm just going to say
it's coming.
It's coming. He's either going to get into a fight. He's going to get. There's problems. He's great. Don't get me wrong. He's talented, but he's got some antics when he's on the field and he gets frustrated. He's like Steve Smith when he's just ready to fight somebody. So I think these are good pickups. They don't have great matchups. And as far as the defense goes, I needed a defense because the ones that I was streaming, they're on bye, and I didn't want to settle for crap defenses. So I was like, I'm just going to get what I want.
All right. Are these the only players you put bids on this week, or do you have anybody else that you didn't get because you got your first picks?
No, that was it. Those were the ones I wanted, so I bid high enough to where I didn't have to worry about it.
Because sometimes I'll when I go to pick up somebody, I might put a bid for 3 guys, but I'm dropping the same one, so only one of them's going to go through, no matter how many people I pick. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that wasn't the case this time. These are all the guys you put bids on. You got them all.
Exactly, and that's what I wanted. So,
all right, guys. Now it's time to find out who's playing who in this week's matchups.
I want you! I want nostalgia! Ready, down! Put!
This week's matchup.
All right, starting off this week, we have Amazing Spidey at 6-4 is playing against the number 1 team in terms of seedings. 7-3's Corey's Mac Daddy 2's. What do you have in this matchup against 2 teams that couldn't be farther apart in points, but are pretty close in win-loss record?
Wow, yeah. So this is going to be a good one. There's some pretty tough matchups over on Amazing Spidey side. With Calvin Risky again, going against Minnesota's defense. It's going to be a good matchup there. But everything else looks good. Obviously, Tua is hopefully he stays in the game. If he stays in the game, he'll be okay. And then the next thing I see is that Mac Daddy 2's has not made a final decision on his quarterback yet. So it's going to be hard to judge this one without seeing that quarterback, but everybody else looks like they're ready to go. He does have Nico Collins in, so hopefully Nico gets on the field. So maybe I'll lean towards Amazing Spidey just because of the uncertainty in Mac Daddy 2.
Well, I think we'll get to it later. He's going to have a quarterback upgrade coming soon, so I think that'll be made. His decision made for him.
Mhm.
Also, he dropped Drake May as he had to make roster moves to get Nico Collins out of his IR since he's no longer on the IR, so he had to make some roster moves in that regard. So he dropped Drake May and kept Caleb Williams.
Yeah, that's interesting. Very interesting. I'm looking at his bench right now, and he's got Pittman on the bench. He's got Bo Nix on the bench. Bo Nix might be a good start this week. I don't know, man. We'll see.
Against Atlanta, yeah, that's a good start, potentially.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, moving along to our next game here. Last-ditch effort for some of these guys. Reggie's Lionides at 3-7. He is not out of it. That seventh loss is not good, but you are still alive until you get that eighth loss. And even then, you're not mathematically out. But the eighth loss is the nail in the coffin. The seventh loss is just the lid put on. He's up against Ben's brilliant team, who's our lowest scoring team of the season at 4-6. So we have Lionides versus Ben's brilliant team. What do you have on this matchup?
Oh, can we get a tie? Is that possible? Oh my gosh. So I'm not excited about Lionides. McLaurin, I've got a little future because I'm looking at the score here. He's not doing that great. His score is looking a little scary. He's got Garrett Wilson in there. I don't know what they're going to do on that team. Persall, yeah, I mean, he got his touchdown. So are they going to go back to the well there? And on the other side, we got Swift and Moore still in this lineup. We said to hold all assets, but we didn't say to start those assets.
Yeah.
Also, I don't think Ben has finished finalizing his roster yet because he's got Wandale Robinson and McLaughlin, the kicker, on his roster, and they're on buys.
Yeah, you can mention as we go through. As I looked earlier, this right before the game today, I saw there's like 4 or 5 different players on buy that were in people's starting lineups as of today. I know it's not the end all be all, but nonetheless.
Yeah, but he doesn't have too much more going on his bench to fill those spots. So Tank Bigsby is a little banged up. So he's got to get some other things going in here. He does have Tyler Lockett though, so you can get him in there.
Okay. All right, moving along here, we have Alex's They Took Our Jobs. I think he's the number one scorer. No, I'm not sure anymore. The guys are flip-flopping a little bit. Excuse me. I think he's our highest scoring team in the league this season at 6-4 on a little bit of a slide lately, up against Nick's Waddle Away, who came off a monster performance last week. If I'm not mistaken, he's at 5-5. So we have a big game here. Alex's They Took Our Jobs is going to have to win this to keep ahead of the division, and Nick's Waddleway is going to need to win this to keep his playoff chances strong. What do you have on this matchup?
Well, I'm going to lean towards Alex's They Took Our Jobs because he's got that running. Those running backs are all in his lineup here. I mean, he actually, I didn't even realize this, but he's got James Conner as well, and he's on a bye, obviously, but his running backs can beat Nick's Waddle Away team on their own. There's no way Jamar Chase is getting 50 points again. So that's there. And then he's got Herbert. So Herbert will put up some points, I believe. And Josh Allen on the other side might not put up points against KC. Josh Allen might have a dud game against KC.
Yeah. I'm so impressed with Alex's running back room. He's got both his flexes the way our league is. We only have to play one running back and we get 2 flexes. Can you imagine having a group of Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, and James Conner? James Conner is your throw-in, and he's a RB5 on the year, give or take.
Yeah, he's stacked in that running back position. He might break the Red Sox Nation mold of all wide receivers and one running back.
When they zig, you zag, my man.
That's it.
All right, our next matchup here are 2 bottom teams, but that doesn't mean they're the 2 worst teams, as we have Katie's King George at 3-7 up against Ken's The Fantastics at 2-8. What do you have on this game?
Oh, well, let's just start off right at the top on the Fantastics. Jared Goff, MVP, right? MVP Jared Goff over here. He had a little bit of a down game for him, so he's going to be okay. He's back at home. He's in the dome. He'll light it up. Tyreek Hill is still starting over here. So
you have to. What do you
I know. I do see Ladd McConkey though on the bench. I might start Ladd McConkey against Cincinnati over Tyreek Hill, just because it's such a boom bust for Tyreek at this point in the season now. He hurt his back on a celebration.
Did he hurt himself on that stupid thing?
Yeah, after the thing, he's great to get. It feels great to get into the end zone. He's like, I'm never celebrating with Odell again, though. I think I hurt my back a little bit.
Oh my
And
gosh.
he winced. And I'm like, are you serious right
He
now?
did a back flop. Like there was nothing breaking his fall. I don't know what he was doing.
No, they were doing a
Yeah, like a wrestling, like a
yeah, Jake
clothesline.
Paul, not Jake Paul. What's the other brother? Whoever's the wrestler is one of the Paul
Logan.
brothers. Logan Paul's move. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on over there. But
Well,
back to this. Sam Darnold's on the other side, though. Zay Flowers is on the other side, and they both had duds. So if they can get back in this, I think we could lean towards King George in this a little bit. But Jared Goff's on the other side, and he's an MVP candidate.
like
I mean, he should be MVP at this point. So
exactly. For those who like to keep timestamps, we mentioned that Jared Goff's MVP at multiple times between 28 minutes and 30 minutes. Keep that in mind for those timestampers. All right.
Yeah, projected at 16 points, he could get 32 easily, but he doesn't need to because he's going to get Montgomery going, but Montgomery's on the other team, on King George's team. So hopefully we'll see what happens here.
We are going to jinx a lot of this. The Lions are going to get their second loss of the season against the Jaguars. What a disaster.
What a disaster. Oh, also fantastic. So check J.K. Dobbins' status, make sure he's healthy and good to go.
All right, moving on to our next game here. Oh my gosh, these two again are top teams here. As Cubert's Rage, actually he might be it's really close. He's has the best record, tied with the best record. He's only not in first place due to a tiebreaker of division records, and he's 1 or 2 overall in points. Cubert's Rage at 7-3, up against Jimerson's Red Sox Nation at 6-4. The winner of this game is going to put themselves almost locked into playoff contention, and the loser is going to have to keep fighting to hold off those people clawing at their feet. What do you have in this particular matchup?
Well, we got London on the other side. That's a little bit of a question mark just because he might get Surtain, like we talked about.
He's going to get Surtain, no doubt.
Pre-show, yeah. So that might be a shutdown over there. CeeDee Lamb, who's throwing it to CeeDee. See, on a bad day, CeeDee's getting what, like 10, 12 points on a bad day. So if Rush could not be as bad as he was, CeeDee will be okay, but that's still suspect here. Oh my gosh, he's got 2 Dallas players over here. Okay, Red Sox Nation, Jalen Hurts cannot carry your team forever. Get these Dallas players out of there, buddy.
I forgot to mention before you got to Cubert's Rage team, I forgot to put in the news. He put Rico Dowdle in his starting lineup, and the news was today that they are now, I don't know if the word committed is too strong, but they are going away from the committee backfield, which I don't know what that was, and they're going to, it's hard to say officially because until he gets the playing time, but they're saying that Rico Dowdle is now the lead back for the Cowboys, which is a great place to be, although it hasn't worked out overall great, but there's a chance Dowdle might be a back half superstar for fantasy players.
Yeah, and looking at his bench, he's got 4 top players on bye, so I understand why he's playing his lineup. Cubert's Rage, though, he's got his Dolphin asset on his bench with Waddle on the bench. He's got Shakir on the bench. He's got Higgins on the bench. So he's got the bench. He's benched the correct people. So I might lean towards Cubert's Rage on this one, just because of those Dallas assets.
All right. Our last game here is Bernie's Team B at 5-5. He's been in that 500 mark for a little while now. Versus Andrew's Crazy Fish, who's actually leading his division over Jimerson's Red Sox Nation. He's also at 6-4 as his Red Sox Nation, but he's got the division win-loss tie break. He's one of the not lowest scoring teams, but lowest scoring winning teams. He and I are both 6-4, Crazy Fish and Amazing Spidey, and we're both only about 35 points apart in that 900 point range, while these other guys are up to 1,100 points and 1,000 points plus. So this is a big game for Crazy Fish as he needs to keep wins because his tiebreaker in terms of points is not going to hold up. Similar to you, you've got the points, my man. If you can get just a couple wins, if you win this game, for example, and Alex loses, you won't get there in terms of the tiebreaker yet because he was 3-0 to start the first 3 games. But I think you're catching up to him in points, and you can get him in a time in record. You'll be on your way.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna say who I think is gonna win this. I'll say who I think is suspect on each person's bench here. Juwan Jennings, keep an eye out for that. Butker, you can keep him in your lineup. I'm okay with that, but probably take care of that. He's got a Las Vegas Raider in his lineup, Mr. Madison. So the only really good thing I see going on here is Burrow and Brown. So and Green Bay's defense. So I think I have a chance. But on my side, I'm really just kind of worried about nobody. So I'm going to be okay.
Do you think you're going to have to potentially manufacture this victory?
Yeah, probably.
I'm going to give you a potential tip.
Go
Okay.
drop a bunch of kickers.
Yeah, but depending if you have any of your players get ruled out, where you don't need Reichert in your IR spot. That's
Right.
the part here. You need to have somebody else in your IR so you can drop people. So either pick up someone who's hurt, or if one of your guys gets ruled out, I'm not sure if you have any questionables or not. But once you have a questionable that becomes out, do what he does. Pick up the Monday kicker that you don't want him to have, and once that Monday game starts, drop him. Pick up the 4 o'clock kicker that you don't want him to have, and keep going as long as you can. And just see if you can limit his pool a little bit.
Yeah, but there's nobody.
He'd do it to you.
I know, but there's nobody I want to drop on my team.
Fair enough.
There's nobody I want to drop because I did that last time, and then Pickens is on the guy I'm playing right now.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Yeah, if it works out though, you have a chance to do a little extra work and maybe steer what his team might be able to do it might backfire. I'm just saying, just keep that in mind.
I think I'll be okay. I mean, he's playing a Patriot, like I said. He's playing a Raider. So yeah, I'll be okay.
All right, guys. Now it is time to get to our updated power rankings.
I have the power! By the power of Grayskull!
I'm living in it, no one man should have all that power.
Wingman Power Rankings.
All right, guys. Our power rankings have been a lot of movement as now Crazy Fish has dropped down into the bottom here. So that's good news for you, Bernie, as you're playing against the worst team in terms of power rankings. I just jinxed this whole thing as he fell from 10 to 12. Ben's brilliant team is finally out of the basement, moving up to the 11th spot, while Waddle Away moved up 1 spot to 10. Kubert's Rage is holding strong at 9. Lion Eyes dropped from 7 to 8. The Fantastics dropped from 6 to 7. Spidey is moving on up to the 6th side. I'm a little nervous every time I get a higher ranking. I play worse. But Amazing Spidey's moving up to the 6th in terms of power rankings. Red Sox Nation stays in at 5. Mac Daddy 2's drops from 2 to 4. Team B, this might be your highest spot that I've noticed all year. You've started out as 5, now you're at 4, now you're up to 3, moving from that 4 spot. Congratulations. King George still holding on as she's staying in the top, even though her record doesn't match it. She was 3 last week, and she moves up to 2. And for the second straight week, at least, They Took Our Jobs is holding in at the number 1 rated team in terms of power rankings, which means he has the most projected points going forward. What do you think about that particular list there?
Oh, the best $25 I ever spent. You see those Waiver Wire guys? That's what I'm talking about. They gave me that bump in that power ranking. They're like, oh, that guy's finally got some wide receivers on his team. Let's go.
All right, guys, it is now time to get to our starts of the week, where we give you our stone cold lead pipe locks at the starts. So we're going to let you know who we pick, as we're always right. Don't look at the tape. I'm going to start us off here, if you don't mind. We'll start with the QB position here. I'm going to pick MVP, Loungefly, Jared Goff, only because he's playing the Jacksonville Jaguars, who give up the 3rd most points to the position. I picked Darnold against this defense last week. Can they back-to-back shut me out on my start of the week? We will see. So with that being said, I've got Jared Goff as my quarterback. Start of the week.
Oh boy, you know that you picked Jared Goff as your start of the week in week 1, and he let you down. But he didn't really get going until later on. So
well, he's been awful in terms of fantasy, but I'm thinking this might be one of those games that are up by so much they're going to let him try some things.
Oh, okay. All right, let me see who I have at my start of the week here. I have a guy who's a future Hall of Famer, in my opinion, playing on his 3rd team, I believe. Mr. Russell Williams.
Wow.
Versus Baltimore. So, he's been meshing really well with the Steelers' downfield targets, including my new acquisition, Mike Williams, who caught the game-winning score last week. And Arthur Smith seems to have a good grasp on where Wilson excels. And it should also kind of match up nice with the problems that the Ravens have defending downfield against the pass. So it could get into a shootout with Lamar, and then that gives him a high ceiling for this week.
That's a very good call there. The Ravens, they win most of their games, but they let teams get back in that second half, even when they get up to big leads. So There's been shootouts more times than not against that Ravens defense.
So let Russ cook. And he's only projected, what is he projected at? Do we give in our projections?
I don't even look at him, but you can say it if you want to see what he's at.
He's projected at a 17, and I can see him getting more than that.
All right. Why don't you give us your running back start of the week?
Ooh, running back start of the week, Mr. Gus Edwards.
Oh,
You heard
wow.
me. Gus Edwards. That's right. Yeah, I could give you the Saquon Barkley start of the week. Of course, everybody could do that. I could do that. But Gus Edwards he looked better in the initial burst than J.K. Dobbins last week. And Dobbins had just passed his career high for carries in a season. So that means that they're working him, and that's a good thing that they're working him. That means that they're sticking to the run games. The Bengals defense has given up at least 100 total yards or a touchdown to an opposing running back every week this season. And Edwards gets more red zone opportunities than Dobbins last week. So Gus Edwards is my start of the week.
Nice call. I like it. I like it a lot. All right,
Oh,
my running back start of the week.
He's only projected at 5.8 points.
Yeah,
he's definitely
he should
getting
get.
more than
I mean, you're hoping he gets 11, and that's an easy win there. Yeah. All right, my start of the week. I'm going back to the well. I'm picking a running back from the Bernie's Team B, as this is just the gift that keeps on giving. But I pick a different one each time. We're going with Nick Chubb this week. Nick Chubb versus the New Orleans Saints. The Saints give up the third most points to the running back position, and Nick Chubb is about to break out for his one game before he faces all the toughest defenses. This is his last chance to have a monster game, and it's going to happen this week. Nick Chubb is my running back start of the week.
Oh my gosh. Okay. You know what? Before we move on, so you're gonna Nick Chubb is the start of the week.
Yeah.
Who are you putting him in for? Are you putting him in for Ken Walker? Are you putting him in for Kamara? Or are you putting him in for Taylor?
Without looking too deep, it's close enough. I'd have to think. Walker has not been doing well for the most longest period of time. He's been bad for about 3 or 4 weeks. Now you could say that has to do with the missing of DK Metcalf, who is back. I don't know how much that makes a difference. I just don't know. I think Seattle overall started off hotter than they are overall.
Yeah.
So that's a tough choice. You got 4 solid running backs there.
Yeah.
But at a quick glance, I would say Walker. Without diving too deep into their matchups.
Okay, cool. Just curious. All right. My wide receiver.
Or you can just trade me Chubb right now, and I'll put him in. That's fine.
My wide receiver start of the week is getting passes thrown to him from the future MVP Jared Goff himself, Mr. Jameson Williams, JMO at Jacksonville versus Jacksonville. They're going to be in their dome. We're still not sure. Are we sure if Laporta is going to play?
I think he's not going to play.
Okay. But
he's closer to playing than Kincaid, for example, but he hasn't practiced yet. He had a shoulder injury, and against a weaker opponent, I think they're going to give him a week off.
Right. So they should err on the side of being conservative with that. And that includes if he plays, sending Laporta down on downfield routes, right in the middle of the field where he's going to get nailed by a safety. So he's more likely, if he plays, is going to be a decoy, which is going to open up that deep part of the field for Williams, where he is spectacular on the run when he's getting MVP caliber throws in stride. So Jameson Williams is my start of the week in the wide receiver position.
Nice. So we have very similar takes, just from opposite directions here. Mm-hmm. As you picked well, first of all, you shouldn't pick your own player. I don't know why you haven't learned this yet, my man. You keep picking your own players. It's not a good strategy. I learned that after week 2. I stopped picking my guys even when I want to, because it doesn't work out. But anyway, I like the pick overall because I picked Jared Goff as the quarterback. You picked Russell Wilson as your quarterback, and I picked a Steeler for my receiver. So we are definitely on both sides of the same games here, as I picked George Pickens up against Bernie's Team B, and also up against the Baltimore Ravens, who give up the most points to the wide receiver position. They stuff the run. They make teams have to pass because of what they're able to do and what the script also allows for. George Pickens is my wide receiver start of the week.
Love it. And just for the audience, let's take a peek back behind the curtain, behind the scenes here. This is the unscripted part of the show where I don't know when I'm making my decisions. I don't know what Mike's decisions are, and vice versa. So that's great that we both did that little crisscross there with the quarterbacks and receivers.
All right. All right. Before we get into my favorite segment and yours, did you notice we changed the helmet shelf?
Yeah, I did notice that. You got that Kelly Green going on back there. I see that popping. What is that? Is that a first one a Jags?
Commanders.
It's Commanders. Okay. I couldn't tell from my
Yeah, it's
screen. My screen's
dark maroon with the gold W. So yeah, I can see why it looks like that, but I hear you.
And then is that a Browns?
Yeah, I figured that was the easiest one to see as the smallest, so I put it
Yeah.
back there.
Very nice. Very nice. I like it.
So I spent today getting purchasing real helmets that are up in the real bar. I purchased a bunch of real helmets today. So I've got a nice set. I'm going to keep it going. Let me know what a combination of helmets you might guys want up there. Right now I did the Thursday game since we did that last week, kind of inadvertently. Or we did the Sunday game last time, actually. So I'm going to do these primetime games until you guys put some suggestions up. But if you want, we'll put different helmets up there for you guys. So let us know about that. Now, with that part being said, let's get into my favorite Friday morning segment and yours. It is time for a 4th and long with Bernie.
First down, the game's over. Go for it.
This measurement could determine the Giants'
It is
season.
time for 4th and long.
With Bernie.
Love it. I love it. I love the new intro. We're only going to get better with those intros, aren't we? We're just going to liven it up. All right. What's up, fantasy degenerates? Welcome back to 4th and Long. It's me, Bernie, if you couldn't tell from the intro. And today we're diving into offensive schemes that are either making or breaking your fantasy season. Okay, so let's break down some X's and O's that'll have you looking like a genius in your group chat. All right, scheme number 1, the wide zone run. All right, let me paint you a picture of an offense. I'm sorry, let me start that again here. Let me paint you a picture of offensive poetry in motion. The wide zone run is like watching synchronized swimming, but with 300-pound linemen. The entire offensive line moves in perfect harmony, stepping laterally, creating these massive running lanes that look like the parting of the Red Sea. The beauty? Your running back doesn't even need to be the fastest guy on the field. It's all about patience, vision, and that one decisive cut. When this scheme is humming, your RB2 suddenly looks like a league winner. All right, scheme number 2, the air raid gone wrong. Listen, we've all been seduced by those high-flying air raid offenses. 4 receivers spread wide, empty backfield, quarterback and shotgun. It looks gorgeous on paper, but here's the thing about the air raid. When it works, your fantasy points go through the roof. When it doesn't, it's like watching someone play Madden with their elbows. The key is the offensive line in this one. If they can't give the QB at least 2.5 seconds, that air raid turns into an air, well, let's just say you'll be raiding the waiver wire next week. Scheme number 3, the modern West Coast offense. Now this is where fantasy dreams are made. Short, quick passes that count the same as runs, but with way more upside. It's basically PPR heaven. The modern West Coast offense is like speed dating. Quick decisions, lots of options, and everyone gets a chance to score. But here's the catch. And trust me, there's always a catch. This scheme spreads the love around more than your uncle at a family barbecue. Great for real football, potentially frustrating for fantasy. Scheme number 4, the RPO, run pass option here. Reality, everyone's favorite 3 letters in modern football. The RPO is like giving your quarterback a choose your own adventure book. But here's what they don't tell you. It's actually pretty simple when you break it down. The defense tells you exactly what to do. You just have to listen. When you see an RPO heavy offense, you're basically betting on decision making. Good decision making. Fantasy gold? Bad decisions? Well, let's just say you might want to have a backup plan ready. And now a special shout out, the Wildcat Warriors. Before we wrap up, Let's pour one out for the 2008 Dolphins and the scheme that broke football's brain, the Wildcat. Talk about zigging while everyone else was zagging. Imagine being a defensive coordinator, watching film all week, and then seeing your linebacker soul leave his body as the entire offensive formation looks like somebody spilled a bag of Skittles. That's the Wildcat, baby. The scheme, so crazy, it actually worked until it didn't. But for one glorious season, it was like watching Chaos Theory solve a Rubik's Cube. Go Dolphins. So here's the bottom line. Here's what you need to know about schemes. Number one, wide zone success equals patient running backs. Air raid requires protection first, good offensive line, weapons second. Modern West Coast means consistency over explosive plays. RPOs are only as good as the decision maker. And sometimes we just need to unleash pure chaos. Shout out Wildcat. That's all for this week's Fourth and Long. Remember, fantasy friends, schemes are like recipes. The ingredients matter, but it's all about the execution. I'm Bernie, and I want to hear from you. Drop a comment and let me know what your favorite offensive scheme of all time. Maybe it was the West Coast Precision, the Wildcat Chaos, or maybe you're a sicko who loves the wing tee. Whatever it is, let's hear it. Until next time, keep scheming.
All right. Well done, Bernie. I want to let everyone know out there, this takes a lot of, especially this one, he's breaking down offenses, guys, X's and O's. Takes a lot of time and energy for Bernie to put these together. Not only does he have to come up with the subject matter, but he's got to research them sometimes, depending on how well he knows them off the top of his head. And he's got to write them as cleverly as possible with as many puns as he can get in. And I love that. You know that. So I just want to give Bernie a round of applause for his hard work. Nice job, man. I definitely appreciate it. I remember that a lot of these. I'm a fan of the West Coast mixed in with the zone running. I'm a Shanahan fan in terms of offense. It works so well.
Yeah.
But that Wildcat, I remember because they had Chad Pennington as their quarterback, noodle arm Pennington, and they realized because that was when Ricky Williams came back kind of unexpectedly, his second stint with the Dolphins after being retired, and said you have to owe us all your money back.
Ricky and Ronnie Brown, baby.
Right. So they're like, you know what? Like I said this before, sometimes if you have use your best players, whatever they are. It's not great that you're not balanced and that you have two good running backs, but if you have them, use them. And they instead they just let Ronnie Brown make the decisions there, and he had that left-handed throw, which it took people 6 weeks to realize he was left-handed. He would roll out to the left. They're like, "Oh, he's running it," and he would just flick it over the top.
It was great. It was a great time. Great time for a bad team.
Yeah, yeah. They went the playoffs that year, right? Or they won the division.
Oh, we got a lot of Dolphin fans that watch this.
I think they won the division that year. Yeah. I think that was the Matt Castle year.
Yeah, I'm a Dolphin fan, but I don't claim to be a Dolphin expert, and I never want to overstep my Dolphin factual history because I'll get reamed for not getting it right.
Fair enough. All right, guys. Wait. We got some breaking.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? I've just been handed an urgent and horrifying news story. And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Buy. Sell.
Hold!
Wingman Fantasy Football. Trade Wire.
All right. Can you believe it? We finally had our first trades of the season, and we had two. And on the third to last day before trade deadlines go out, have you been making any trade offers as we hit the trade deadline coming up?
Yeah, I sent a couple out. I sent two out. One got rejected. I did just a quick try to get some Arizona assets. I offered Harrison, or I offered
quarterback Richardson, right?
Yeah, Anthony Richardson for Marvin Harrison. That got rejected. And then I've got one out for offered up Nick Chubb for James Conner, and that'll probably get rejected tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Well, we did have a couple trades get accepted late on Thursday as both involved yours truly, Amazing Spidey. The first trade that went down, Amazing Spidey sent out the Kansas City Chiefs stack of Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce to our number one seed, Mac Daddy 2s, for Breece Hall and Caleb Williams. Mac Daddy 2's team is so stacked. He's got multiple bench players from each position, but he's playing rookie quarterbacks, and he made the move to upgrade in his quarterback position. The interesting thing is that both these teams are playing each other right now in week 11, and the downside here, even though I think Spidey might have got the better player, is Breece Hall's on a bye next week, so both now Bijan Robinson and Breece Hall are going to be on a bye 12, putting him in a bind for week 12. The other trade went out was also involving Amazing Spidey, who sent out Rome Odunze, Jordan Mason, and Mark Andrews to Katie's King George, who has a win now mentality. If she gets that 8th loss, her season is all but over, and she's got many players on her team that are on bye this week, including Mike Evans, Xavier Legette, and Jake Elliott, who played on Thursday night. So we had a 3-for-3 Odunze, Mason, and Andrews sent out to acquire Mike Evans, Xavier Legette, and Jake Elliott. So a big day for Amazing Spidey, sending out 5 players, getting in 5 players. What do you think about these trades independently as a whole? Who do you think won? What do you think about these trades?
Well, I think the 5 players that Amazing Spidey sent out and versus the 5 players he got in, I think it's a pretty even trade. Advantage Amazing Spidey just a little bit. You know, everybody always has to have. There's always needs to be somebody with an advantage in a trade. There's never really an even trade anywhere. But I would say that you probably helped Mac Daddy 2s, which I wouldn't have advised because he's already so good, giving him a couple of assets. So in that one, I think he might have gotten the better trade. But King George, I think you got the better trade in that one.
Yeah, we'll see. Like as always, every year I think I get the better end of a trade, and it doesn't always work out that way. So we'll see how it ends up. Like it made sense. Like Mac Daddy 2's had that one hole, so we got 2 starters, and I got 1. And the other game, I sent out essentially spot starters at best, and the handcuff. I get Jordan Mason was valuable to King George because she has Christian McCaffrey.
You don't got to sugarcoat it anymore. The trade already went through.
All right, fair enough. Okay, fair enough. All right, guys. It is now time to get into this week's Wingman Jam.
Wingman Fantasy Football.
Wingman Jam with the Bounty Hunter and Amazing Spidey. Boom shakalaka. All right, I hope that didn't sound to you guys how it sounded to me. But anyway, we're going through our Wingman Jam. We just finished we're reviewing our third leg here of round number 3, or is it the round number 3 of our third leg? Anyway, we had our pick'ems last week, where after this week, after last week's results, we will pick our 2 versus 2 fantasy players. But let's go over last week's pick'ems to see how we fared. Starting off with a fantasy football score head-to-head. We had Taysom Hill versus Kyle Pitts. Both these are middling tight ends. Both were in the same game as the New Orleans Saints played Kyle Pitts. I picked Taysom Hill to outscore Kyle Pitts, and Bernie picked Kyle Pitts to outscore Taysom Hill. And Kyle Pitts came through, getting 7.5 points, besting Taysom Hill's 6 points. So starting off the bat, Bernie is 1-0, and I'm 0-1 on this week's review of our Wingman Jam. Our second pick'em here was an NFL spread. Pittsburgh at Washington Commanders, where the Commanders were a home favorite at minus 2.5 points. I picked Pittsburgh to cover the small spread, and without hesitation, Bernie picked the Washington Commanders to cover the 2.5. But Pittsburgh not only covered, they won this game outright in a very close game. It was close to that number as Pittsburgh won 28-27. So after 2 prop bets here, we are even at 1-1. Our next prop bet was picked here by Bernie. He put this one out there as he had a couple of quarterbacks, rookie quarterbacks. He had Drake May up against Caleb Williams was his choice here. And they're both projected at 16.9 points. Both these players are on Mac Daddy 2's roster, and both these players played against each other in the same NFL game. Bernie picked Drake May to outscore Caleb Williams, and I picked Williams to outscore May. Very reluctantly, fell backed into a corner, but May more than doubled Williams' output, even though both players did not hit their projection. Drake May got 13.8 points. Caleb Williams got 6.3 points. So after 3 picks, I am at 1 and 2. Bernie is at 2 and 1. And the last prop on last week's Wingman Jam was the Patriots at the Chicago Bears, where the Bears were favored at a whopping -6. I don't know what these guys were doing on this one. We both saw right through this. We both picked New England to cover that big number of -6, and we were both correct, as New England won this game on the road 19-3. So last week's Wingman Jam, you were 3 and 1, Bernie. Congratulations. I was 2 and 2. And after our 3 rounds of this Wingman Jam, you finished the 3 rounds at 8 and 4. I finished at 7 and 5. Nice job, Bernie. Way to go.
Thank you so much. I'm much better at this than starts of the week. For sure.
All right. So with that being said, now it is time for our 2v2 to take this leg take this leg down here, as the winner can boast supremacy, and the loser will have to embarrass themselves in some sort of embarrassing look or costume next week. Being that we were so close, we're gonna roll the dice to see who gets the first pick. We actually already first we're gonna roll to see what rounds we're gonna choose from here. We did this before the show here. We're gonna pick from rounds 4 and rounds 7. And then we also roll to see who's going to pick first in a snake draft, picks 1 and 4 or picks 2 and 3. And after rolling the dice here, Bernie gets a first pick, if I'm not mistaken here. So you get to pick, and you can pick either round 4 or round 7. We're doing first. We're doing flex position, so running backs and running backs and receivers. Any combination of those picks. Who are you taking first here? Let me put the board. Sorry, I'm sorry. Let me put the board up so our viewers can see what we have in our rounds here. Okay.
All right. I think I might go. Let's see what we got here. Round 4. Yeah, some good players there. I like that. That's some bye weeks going on there. Oh, some injuries. All right, what's round 7? You know what? I think that Herbert is going to light things up. I'm going to go with Lad McConkey.
You did mention that earlier. You're thinking against Cincinnati, they gave up a ton of points to the Ravens last week. You're thinking it's going to happen this week as well for the Chargers. Yeah, I like it. Lad McConkey is the first pick there.
Yeah, yes, sir.
All right, so I get back-to-back picks here as I'm in the end of the snake, if you will. Let's see, 4th round here. Well, I don't really pick which round I want first because I get these in a row. Let's see. Aaron Jones is screaming at me in round 7, and I'll take Zay Flowers in round 4. So I'm going to take Aaron Jones and Zay Flowers. Are you going to double up with a receiver or pick a running back to even out the picks here?
Oh, I might, I don't know. You got a lot of purple on your team, though. You got some Vikings and some
oh, yeah, that's
Ravens.
True. I got Purple Rising, my man, taking you down.
There it is. All right, maybe I'll pick up some purple. I'll go with that purple square of Travis Kelce.
All right, guys, we are locking in our 2 versus 2 for the championship round of leg 3 of our Wingman Jam here. So just to review here, I've got Aaron Jones and Zay Flowers. Bernie's got McConkey and Travis Kelce. The 2 players that earn the most points will win this one. So it's just a straight up 2-on-2. Nice job there. All right, guys. It is now time to get into our mailbag.
You've got mail.
You've got mail. Wingman Fantasy Football.
Mailbag! All right, guys, I am very pleased. Our mailbag is actually, it spilleth over. And because we're a little long on time right now, we're just going to cut this in half and hit the ones that are more time sensitive, if you will. But we will get the other ones in. Don't you worry. We will get to all of our mailbags. But we are going to start off. We had a YouTube comment from Loungefly. Thank you so much. And he's responding to your last week's 4th and long, Bernie. He says, hey, fellas at Wingman, after last week's 4th and long, I wanted to let you know my ranking for the best throwback helmets. And he's going to start us off working backwards from 4 to 1. His 4th favorite throwback helmet is the old school Chicago Bears team here, which is surprising since that's a rival of his Detroit Lions. His third favorite here is the Miami Dolphins from the 80s. Let's see. His second favorite helmet is a throwback for technically the Tennessee Titans, but it's the Houston Oilers powder blue and red. A very fine uniform indeed. And of course, his favorite helmet and throwback is the Detroit Lions. This helmet here was from 1980 to 2003. And as I was looking this up, I didn't realize that they really changed it here, as this lion is monochromatic. There are no like muscle lines. It's very flat. And actually, I always liked the Lions when they had the more plain a Lions uniform, the better I like it. I'm not going to lie about that. What do you think about his choices for throwback helmets and his rankings of those said helmets?
I like it. I like all of those helmets. I know he is a Lions fan, so I would say that we could just toss out that Lions helmet because that's a given. Mine's would be the Dolphins in that set at number 1, but I think we both agree that the number 2 spot there, the Houston Oilers out of that set, is by far the better looking helmet and uniform. I like it. And then I would probably put the Bears at 3 and the Lions at 4 as far as what I like.
Those Houston ones, whenever you see the marketing for them, when they kind of have the posters for them, and they would show like Derrick Henry, with, the big guy with the tight powder blue. It reminds me of Eddie George, and then Earl Campbell. It's just that the big running backs and the powder blue is just a strong reminder of just how powerful those teams were and that running game was. It's just fun to see the big running backs in that powder blue outfits.
Yeah, but you know what? I like them as throwbacks only, once or twice a year. I wouldn't want to see them all year round.
Gotcha. I also like the red face mask. That bright contrast of the color of the face mask is nice. Yeah.
Yes, when they change up the face mask color, that's always cool.
All right, this one comes in from Team B, leaving a comment on YouTube. Thanks, Team B. Appreciate that one. This one is actually addressed directly to Bernie. Wow. He says, "Hey, yo, Bernie, you mentioned that the Houston Texans red helmets were called Red Rush. And I just want to let you know," he put that in an emoji. That's how I'm taking the emoji. It was some sort of snarky yellow face. "I want to let you know that technically the Houston's red helmet is called a Battle Red helmet," Bernie. So your Rush Red was a mischaracterization. It's called Battle Red. Get bodied, Bernie, by Team B. What do you think about this correction? I mean, we want to get things right, so we appreciate that. But what do you think about the tone from Team B?
Oh, well, the tone, yeah, you could check that at the door, but we appreciate the view. Thank you for watching. Thank you for leaving a comment. Sometimes we don't get it all right. I mean, if you've seen our starts of the week, we just don't get them all right all the time. So we appreciate that you corrected us there. And sometimes just a lot of football stuff going on in the brain, and that information is just not available right away.
All right. Well, thank you for the comment and the correction. We appreciate all the messages
correction.
We get. Yes, exactly. All right. Our next one comes in from Corey. "After making a trade near the trade deadline, I forgot to change my starting lineup and make space for the new players I'm acquiring. I had a player who played on the Thursday night game, in this case Devontae Smith, in my starting lineup and did not remove him before the game started. Hey, Commissioner, it's only the first quarter. Can you help me out and change my starting lineup for me?" What do you think about? I want to answer this because it's directed to the commissioner, which, in case you are not aware, I'm the commissioner of the Wingman Fantasy Football League, but I'm also the opponent of Corey's Mac Daddy 2s this week. And I just want to know if I did the right thing by not changing his lineup for him after the game had started.
Well, surprisingly, my answer is not no. It's hell no. You can't just go around changing somebody's lineup after the thing starts. And unless there's some circumstances, extenuating circumstances, if he's driving and he drives off a cliff or something, ends up in a ditch, 3 hours later, he was in the middle of setting his lineup and he shouldn't be on his phone. That's why he drove off the road. Then maybe, if he's sitting at the bar next to you and the time changes, internet is slow, but the kick hasn't happened yet, and you're both watching the same game, and he's like, "Hey, Commish, could you do this real fast before the kick starts?" Maybe. But no, you can't do that though. No.
So I think the lesson is here is don't set your lineups and drive, because you don't want to go in a ditch and then have a player you didn't want your starting lineup. I mean, that's really the most important thing here.
Oh, and if Mac Daddy too, if you did fall into a ditch, I hope you're okay. And sorry.
And and send pictures for proof, because we, just to make sure we got to be up and up here. All right, guys.
No.
Guys, I want to thank you guys so very much for sending your comments and questions. Like I said, we have a few more here, but and just to keep time right here, we're going to save some of these that are less time sensitive for next time. So we already have a head start, but keep them coming. We can never have too many, and we will get to them eventually. We promise you that. Once again, guys, thank you so much for watching another episode of Wingman Fantasy Football, the League podcast. You can find all of our podcasts on Spotify, Apple Podcast, TuneIn Radio, Amazon Music, and YouTube Music. You can also, if you're not sure if you want to watch or listen, both mediums are on our wingmanentertainment.net/podcast page. If you want to see these beautiful faces, go ahead and check out our YouTube channel at wingmanfantasyfootball.com/YouTube, and where you can please leave a like, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave comments. We appreciate them all so very much. And if you want to check out check your lineups for Sunday, go to wingmanfantasyfootball.com. We have weather tiles for all the cities to see where their weather is. The inactive list comes out right away. That's your fastest tool to get the inactives for the day. So with that being said, guys, may your glasses be full, your mugs stay frosty.
And remember, just because your team is mathematically eliminated doesn't mean you can't ruin somebody else's season. This is the way.
This is the way. I get just as much pleasure of knocking my brother out as I do winning a championship.
There it is.
All right, guys, we'll see you next time. Thank you.